We are live here. Well, welcome to our unfiltered chat with your host with the most of the time here in sunny side Dubai. And I got my main man, one of the top podcasters and researchers here in the MENA region when it comes to blockchain and crypto. And also he's getting into AI too, and that is George from Blockchain DXB. And we got a special guest, an amazing guy, and I we had to bring him here. Well, I had to bring him here because there's a lot going on in the Bitcoin space, and also Oort has also been the Oort Foundation has been a supporter of our LinkedIn live streams from the jump, from the get go. So really appreciate it, and so we want to um, bring more conversations on the intersection of blockchain and AI. So, I know my buddy George has made a wonderful itinerary on some interesting topics. So much to go through. So, George, please take it away, sir.
Yeah, firstly, Marcus, thank you so much for doing this session. And Michael, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. I'm sure our listeners will definitely love what you have to say because you've got a strong experience, not just in AI, but also at the macro trend. And you do quite a lot of research, and you're an investor as well. So thank you so very much for joining this session. Now, talking about macro level factors, I think one of the most important events that is scheduled to take place later on today, that is the CPI numbers. And the inflation numbers will be out by 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, because of that, I'm pretty much sure the prices of Bitcoin and the global cryptocurrency market will be pumping up. Now, we've seen since the last 2 weeks, the prices have marginally been going down, and I feel it is pretty simple. A lot of the whales and notorious traders, they are trying to manipulate the market because they know that the inflation numbers will be down. There is 99.99% that the inflation numbers will be down, and once that thing happens, I'm pretty much sure the prices of Bitcoin and the global cryptocurrency market pumps up. Now, based on the CPI numbers and plethora of other data, the FOMC meeting also is scheduled to take place. Now, that is scheduled to take place after the US election. So, what are your thoughts about, the CPI data that's going to be out later today? I wouldn't be surprised if it goes well below the 2.50% mark.
Yes, so I think this is a very good question. Also, the opportune time to opine on the situation in the U.S. Frankly speaking, and frantically as well. It's a managed market. It's a managed market, and media is used to manage perception. So I'm actually very concerned that there's a narrative out about inflation going down because the economy is doing so well that we had to cut the interest rates, right? Which is oxymoronic.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, once we cut the interest rate, that signaled to the market as well. That's the death knell, potential death knell in the US dollar. Now, that allows the Fed to print more as we move into war. World War III has begun. You've got the BRICS versus NATO. BRICS are trying to de-dollarize, make a multipolar world ecosystem. US has the world reserve currency and trying to maintain hegemony, obviously. So we're seeing several fronts of wars that have started, more so proxy.
Yep.
My concern is NATO, BRICS. You take a look at Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Palestine, and also Lebanon, and then also Iran.
Yep.
So none of this is good. Mix that into the uncertainty of the presidential election in the U.S. I'm actually in Thailand at the moment because though I am pro-Trump for several reasons, one of them being Bitcoin and his potential policies to make Bitcoin a true asset that backs our monetary policy. You also have the Biden, Kamala, Tim Walz administration that is looking to increase capital gains and also tax you on unrealized capital gains. We've seen the incumbency, their approach to crypto. Web3 has not been favorable, and I don't expect the same moving forward if they are to win. My concern here is the tumultuous future that's coming down the road in the U.S. A beautiful country. I really enjoy, love everything about it. Gave me, as a Jamaican, many opportunities. And now to see where we are, we're basically at a crossroads. If you vote Trump, that's nationalistic, America first. If we vote Biden, Harris, Walz, that's going to be communism.
Yep.
To say it bluntly.
100%.
So
agree.
Those are what we have to be looking at when we're talking macro trends. The CPI, that's been managed for several years now. Stock market, I mean, all of it is actually in shambles. So if you take a look at gold has hit new all-time highs. You take a look at Bitcoin, it's hit new all-time highs as well. And those are trends that are actually showing people across the world the lack of confidence in the U.S. economy and the U.S. dollar. And also fiat currencies as well. So that's just being as straightforward as possible. Those are the particular verticals at a macro scale or on the macro scale that I'm actually watching on a daily basis.
I think you're absolutely spot on, Mike, and you've covered pretty much everything that me and Markose agree to as well. And regarding the CPI numbers being managed, we also discussed in one of our sessions that we have via LinkedIn regarding the economic data that was out. And the numbers are definitely not looking good, particularly for United States of America. And right now there is protests going on regarding docs, where roughly $4 billion has been kind of lost for the US economy. And I'm a pro-Trump fan as well.
Per day loss.
Yep, per day, $4 billion per day. So it's going to be really interesting to see, what the outcome to this is. The only thing I think which you missed is regarding the war. I would see a potential war between China and Taiwan as well, because that is gearing up pretty soon as well. So the world is definitely heading in a chaotic world, isn't it?
So you take a look at that as well. China is a part of the BRICS.
Yes.
So it's BRICS versus NATO all around. I'm not sure if you all are looking at the current, the trend where the interest on the debt is actually higher than military spending currently. That was actually last year. But now going into 2025 is probably going to surpass Social Security. So we're moving into new territory. It looks to me like a race to the bottom by the central banks. And this is the conversation that needs to be had. So that's going to affect everyone's quality of life moving forward. And if you're not in alternative assets, because obviously they're going to grow in value as the dollar gets printed into oblivion.
Yep, very true.
If you're not there, then you are doing yourself a disservice. But yes, once again, BRICS versus NATO is World War III. And BRICS, for those who don't know, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and several other member states. Chile
Yeah.
just joined, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, that's
There's,
interesting because I think if my memory serves me well, George, I think in the under the BRICS, the partner nations, I think there's over like 30, I guess. I would also include the UAE as well, Saudi
yeah,
Arabia too,
Egypt,
which is
Iran, quite a lot of
interesting.
countries are joining here.
I mean, I guess you can say this is what like NATO, or I guess the West versus the global South. If you, I don't know if is that the right framing. I don't know, but that's how I kind of roughly see it. So maybe I'm seeing it from a different lens, but it's but you're right. But the point that you're making is quite very legit. So
Absolutely spot on. And Mike, you mentioned about the debt. I was doing a bit of research, and the debt in US is so high that if you actually look at it in terms of the production and the service sectors, the debt just can't be repaid. It has gone to such a point. And for our listeners, what you can do is Ray Dalio has put up a video roughly around a decade ago explaining how the economy works, where he talks about debts, how one person's spending is another person's income. Really appreciate, if our listeners could go ahead and check it out. And then we get a better understanding of the debt and why the debt is so much of a concern. Now, the answer to that is pretty simple. That is one of the reasons why there is a proxy war, as you just mentioned. And with media on the side, you can go around and put out a completely different narrative as to what the reality is, isn't it? So the big question is, where does Bitcoin fit into this? And what role do you think Bitcoin actually plays into it? And Marcus told me that you're a massive fan and an advocate of Bitcoin as well, isn't it?
yeah. So, actually, I got into Bitcoin in 2015, and at the time, I had just retired from my dead-end job, and my business partner and I we started an apprenticeship together. He was my mentor, and he had a very strong background in many areas of life, but specifically business. We ended up moving back to Jamaica, and I remember we were staying on this really cool horse farm called Darlingford Farms in Portland, Jamaica. We're having such a rich time. During dinner, we were talking about the monetary policy coming from the Fed. And Walter and I agreed at that time that I should do a dissertation on Bitcoin. So that's when I started my research, the initial research on Bitcoin, and I presented that to him a couple months later. And from there, we said, Bitcoin is going to be the key solution.
Yeah.
Especially it being new. That was 2015. It was around 6 years old. People were still trying to wrap their heads around it. And we saw that as the fiat gobbler, per se. You look at the economies on the planet. The U.S., some would argue, would be the largest because of the world reserve currency status, and then also China potentially because of the 1.4 billion people. But no, it's actually the internet. The internet has the largest economy, brought everyone together, and finally it had an asset, which was Bitcoin, very scarce, and we saw that as the solution to the printing that was being had by the central banks. So we started acquiring Bitcoin early 2016, and I would have never guessed. And if you had told me before back then, because it was very fringe, would never guess Wall Street would be endorsing Bitcoin right now. Specifically BlackRock and these ETFs. And they're buying Bitcoin at rapid pace. It's hard to keep up with. However, as the central banks race to the bottom, debasing their fiat currency, and try to roll out what I believe will be a central bank digital currency. Bitcoin is going to play a remarkable role in store of value moving forward, on-chain store of value. So my prediction is in the future, when Bitcoin and digital currencies proliferate, which I believe is most likely going to take place in 2025 due to a lot of uncertainties in the market, geopolitically as well. I see more people utilizing Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. I see a future where governments are going to be settling debt in Bitcoin. It's more efficient, less resources necessary, and that is going to be, I think, the demarcation point right there when we start seeing central banks acquiring Bitcoin, right? Because it's going to be inching closer to my prediction that I just shared.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. And Trump did actually
that's
state
awesome.
that.
Wow.
Yeah, and Trump, did actually state that one way to go and get rid of the debt is to acquire a lot of Bitcoin and just pay off the debt using Bitcoin. So that would be a brilliant move. Now, based on your experience, Mike, and this is something, when I interview some of the OGs of Bitcoin, I ask them, how would you define Bitcoin? So according to you, what is your personal experience, your political background, your macro level background, you being from Jamaica and US, now in Thailand, how would you individually define Bitcoin and what is it that means to you?
That's a very good question. It means a lot to me because I like to think that I'm helping my community by occasionally sending, monies back to people that I grew up with in Jamaica, and let's say across the world. Like, if I want to assist people, I don't need a middleman in between us for me to actually send what's necessary to that person to meet their needs. And I love that. So the way I look at Bitcoin, it's the people's currency, and it's going to mean different things to many people. My friend Jeffrey Wernick shared a clip with me recently of him speaking, and what he was harping on, and he was absolutely correct, is that people are always talking about how slow Bitcoin is, right? The 7 transactions per second. But Bitcoin is the most efficient store of value on the planet. It's the most efficient asset as far as liquidation possible. Mm-hmm. I want to exit my Bitcoin. I could get that quicker than I can sell a car.
Yep. Even gold for that matter.
Even gold, right. Yeah, so Bitcoin is fast where it needs to be. And imagine people in emerging markets. Let me put it in perspective as well. I'm bouncing from place to place, but I think you understand my point. I read a couple years back, if you're in America, the average American, 60% were making $40,000 per year. While that sounds like small change, that actually puts you in the 1% of the world.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's true.
That was before COVID.
Yeah. Different perspective, yeah.
Yeah. So just getting my friends in these emerging markets to understand how Bitcoin is used, why it matters, holding some Bitcoin, could actually help them maintain their store of value, their wealth, as well as, fiat currency is being debased, which just continues to happen on a global scale. And I think that's the conversation that's not really being had, right? We talk about everything but that, the debasement of the currency. But yeah, so fiat, because of it being diluted, the value of Bitcoin is immeasurable. I mean, $1 million Bitcoin is not far-fetched. Another thing is, a few years back, it was estimated 6 million Bitcoin have been lost for good. 6 million out of 19 million currently in circulation. That's really 13 million Bitcoin available to 8 billion people. So that hasn't yet been impacted on the price. Yeah. Soon enough it will.
And it's just a matter of one country, going ahead and buying a lot of the Bitcoin and putting it as a reserve. And it would be great, if, let's say, United States of America or Canada or any of the G8 countries, they go out and do that. And that'll have a ripple effect, isn't it? Now, regarding Bitcoin, Mike, and as well, Markose, there's an event taking place today and tomorrow, or rather yesterday and today, that is Bitcoin Amsterdam event. Now, I'm really liking the timing of that event because today the CPI numbers will be out. And in December as well, there's another event taking place in Abu Dhabi, and we'd like Mike to join in for that as well. That is Bitcoin MENA event. And that event also takes place exactly when there is the CPI numbers that's going to be released. So what are your thoughts about the event merging with the dates? I think it's a brilliant move. And these dates are not happening over weekends, yeah? One is happening on Wednesdays and Thursdays. The one in December in Abu Dhabi is taking place on Monday and Tuesday. So I'm pretty much sure they're looking at the CPI data, because at the Bitcoin MENA event, a lot of the institutional investors are attending it. A lot of the government officials are attending it as well. So are they taking that into consideration and putting up these dates? I really like it, to be honest.
Yeah, but I just want to add that for Bitcoin MENA, the folks, thanks to George, the folks who attended the Dubai event, they were the lucky few to get the tickets, the free tickets early. So just wanted to give a shout out to you, George, for making this happen. So yeah, man, this is pretty cool stuff. So, but yeah, it is interesting, the timing. Bitcoin Amsterdam and also Bitcoin MENA.
Yep.
That's and in December. Just right after the UAE national holidays. That's quite the interesting timing.
True, very true. I wanted to just touch base on ETFs. And Mike, we release, we talk about it on a weekly basis. But since this last week, there are a couple of news regarding XRP or Ripple ETF. Now, what are your thoughts about a Ripple ETF? Because just earlier today, or rather yesterday at midnight, Bitwise has also got it and applied for an XRP or Ripple ETF. What are your thoughts about a Ripple or XRP ETF? I personally think the chances of that to be approved is fairly less, but really curious to check what your take on that is.
I think kudos to Ripple if they're able to pull that off. It's a bit of a wag me approach. We're all going to make it. If they make it, that would be great. If they don't, they put off our backs. I don't personally. Let me give you a quick background story of my experience with Ripple. So in March of 2017, I had just discovered
the XRP army.
Altcoins, right?
Okay.
So I put like, $200 worth of Bitcoin, because I was a Bitcoin maxi back then, and now I'm back to being a Bitcoin maxi. But $200 worth of Bitcoin into XRP. At the time, it was like 0.008 per XRP. Ended up getting like 22,000. That was March of 2017, and by April of 2017, 1 month later, XRP hits 45 cents. So that $200 turned to 10K, and that's when I was like, wait a second. So there's an opportunity in these other coins. And then I started doing a deep dive in XRP, and I exited my position because, and there's no shade to anyone. I think, however we get crypto mainstreamed is good, as long as it's bringing value to the people. But XRP had no real utility.
Yep.
It was a bank-to-bank coin, and I tried to, stay true to my beliefs, and due to that, I got out of XRP. So I haven't been involved in XRP ever since, which is fine. They're doing good without me, right?
Yeah.
And now here we are. They might have the opportunity for an ETF. Now, what does that mean? I don't know, because there's more XRP in circulation than there are Bitcoin. So I mean, we're talking 19 million Bitcoin, and with the potential of 6 million being lost for good, 13 million Bitcoin, we're talking billions of XRP. 45 billion last I checked. I'm not even sure anymore. So it's I don't think it's going to move the market.
You're absolutely spot on, and I do think that the chances of it to be approved is fairly less. And for our listeners, what you can do is, on Twitter, there's a guy called Eric Balkanis. I mean, he's probably the best person to follow news updates regarding ETFs. And even Solana approval chances are ridiculously less. Now, I 100% agree to what Mike said regarding, XRP. You don't actually need an XRP for Ripple to work, because it is essentially just a software, isn't it? So Ripple can still work perfectly fine without the XRP, and they don't use blockchain technology as such. It works on IOU. And what is a bit interesting is that in Dubai, they've had a partnership with the IFC, and they want to promote blockchain technology, which is great. But finding a bit ironic that they don't use blockchain technology and they are educating people on blockchain technology. I just wanted to follow up on another thing which is connected to Bitcoin. And this entire week, Mike and Markose, there is a documentary that is going to be released out by HBO. That is Money Electric, The Bitcoin Mystery. And it is shading out a couple of names like Lars Sussman as well as Peter Todd, but no concrete evidence. So what are your thoughts about who Satoshi Nakamoto is? According to me, it doesn't matter who Satoshi Nakamoto is. But this is what I'm seeing a lot via LinkedIn. Everyone is talking about, who Satoshi Nakamoto is, and maybe HBO has cracked the code on it.
I think it's a nothing burger.
Yeah, 100%.
Agreed.
Right? So as long as that Bitcoin, that Satoshi wallet doesn't move any Bitcoin, I could give two rat's asses.
Yep.
Just keep giving us more views.
Preach. Yeah. I know, but I guess I just want to add, when it comes to the HBO documentary, I know. I think to me it's more of a social engineering attempt. Just trying to create more engagement and stuff. And also remember to even the folks who are funding all this stuff, if you track the money, is going to the guys like BlackRock and stuff. So I mean, so for me, the real Satoshi Nakamoto will not come out. Will not disclose and stuff, because that's always been that cypherpunk values. So I don't know. So this is more than just trying to get the lemmings to create some engagement, blah blah blah. Just kind of distract you. But the real Bitcoiner, the real people in the space, say they're trying to create great tech, great technologies that will increase your financial confidence, raise your human capital, and bring economic and financial freedom for the world. So that is, I mean, all the documentary stuff is just distracting a lot of people. So we all have to focus. So anyways, that's my 2 cents.
It's good exposure. It's good exposure to those that are curious about Bitcoin, that are potentially didn't know what to look at or what to look for. So
yeah,
that's the way I look at it. The more people that become aware of Bitcoin, the more potential there is. It's I'm not a big fan of digital currencies or even moving into a digital future, but that's what COVID did, unfortunately, shoved us into this technologification of society. And the only way to protect your wealth moving forward is going to be this scarce new asset class called Bitcoin. And the more people that learn about it now, the better it is because it's still affordable.
Absolutely. And for listeners who still want to find out some of, what did actually happen, there's a guy called Patoshi with a P. He has put up a couple of series of episodes, going back to the early days of when Satoshi Nakamoto was writing the Bitcoin white paper. So our listeners could check on Patoshi with a P. Now, one question I wanted to ask regarding Bitcoin mining, and this happens every time, after the halving. And unfortunately, a lot of the Bitcoin mining operations do tend to shut out. The answer to that is pretty simple. The newly minted Bitcoin is reduced into half. Now, I do have a very specific question, Mike, to you regarding Oort Foundation and mining, if the miners can switch to AI. But before that, I just wanted to share some numbers regarding Bitcoin mining. As of yesterday, in Ireland, which is probably the most expensive country to go and mine one Bitcoin, it costs somewhere between $321,000 to go and mine one Bitcoin, whereas in Iran, it costs only $1,334. $1,324, and there's a website called as nftevenings.com. It gives you a breakup real time as to how much it goes and costs to mine one Bitcoin. Now, my question to you, Mike, is keeping Oort Foundation in mind, do you envision these specific areas where you can capitalize on? It could be due to, let's say, the electricity consumption or the cost of running the operations as well.
And the question is utilizing AI basically for efficient mining?
Not efficient mining. Let's say it does require a lot of electricity and consumption, that is, isn't it? So would it be ideal to look at specific areas where, let's say, it is cost effective to go ahead and set up, let's say, nodes for Oort Foundation? Or does that make any sense, this question?
I understand your question. For us, that doesn't make any sense. What we are going to actually do is what we call the aggregated layer, which is coming soon, maybe Q4, Q1, and look at it as like a Expedia for GPUs, which could be rented, right? Which, if we were to do an Expedia for the Bitcoin miners, right, or for electricity in countries across the world where you get low electricity, right, for mining, I think that would be fantastic. There are many opportunities right now, guys. And what's very interesting is we are all trying to create solutions based on the early stage of technology where we are right now with the tech that we have. 5 years from now, the tech is going to be completely different.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the reality. So what we're looking for is, and you'll continue seeing it in the human experience, we're looking for people to build the next stage, the next level that would be able to rocket us or launch pad us into the next level of tech, right? You hear a lot of people talking about AI. AI is very interesting. There's a lot that we do not know, right? Many people believe that the universe could potentially be an AI, right? I don't know. These are questions that, we have to, like scientists, be asking ourselves because we don't know everything. And you have to come from a contrarian perspective, which is what was crazy. That vaccine stuff that was going on during COVID, trust the science. No scientist is going to tell you to trust the science. You're supposed to question the science.
Exactly,
right?
100%.
So As a contrarian and also a researcher, I'm always questioning the science and questioning my reality and looking at what technology is going to be needed to take us to the next level. And I haven't quite identified that yet, but the foundation is being laid right now. And that's what we're working on at Oort with the Oort Compute and also our data hub and data labeling suite of products. So the future is very bright. AI at the moment, I'm not concerned about because it has to be trained by a human being. Human beings are flawed, right?
Yep.
So I see there's this push by some people for you to actually do connect with like brain to surface interface.
Neuralink is one of them, isn't it?
Just to keep up with AI. It doesn't make sense to me. It absolutely doesn't make sense to me. However, I understand I'm in the tech space. We're in the tech space, and it's all about narrative. And based on your narrative, that's how you receive funding. Yep. I think some of it's quite goofy if you ask me, but that's me. Maybe I'm just a goofy person though. Yeah. AI, as long as it's being programmed by human beings, I'm not concerned about it. However, they're saying that AI could potentially start running on its own. Let's cross that bridge when we get there. Right now, we're way too far from that. And then the next thing is the quantum computing. I think we're probably decades away from that.
Yeah.
That's just how premature our technology is at the moment.
Totally agree. Yeah. Now, I just had one final point, and this is more regarding MiCA regulations, and then we'd love to hear everything about Oort Foundation. Now, one trend which I've been observing since the last 2 weeks is that a lot of the exchanges, a lot of centralized exchanges to be precise, they are delisting a lot of the stablecoins like Tether USDT, and that is purely due to MiCA regulations. Day before yesterday, Coinbase decided that they are going to be delisting quite a lot of non-compliant stablecoins. Now, you can make an argument whether regulations are good or bad or not needed at all. So, we are going to see a drastic change, hopefully from January 2025, regarding some tokens, keeping in mind MiCA regulations. Now, I wanted to get your answer to that. And secondly, regarding Oort Foundations, are there any AI-related regulations, or is MiCA merging with artificial intelligence in that area, or is that not taken into consideration at all?
I think I got the question, but can you repeat the last portion?
Regarding MiCA, does that etch into, let's say, the Oort Foundation or the Oort tokens? Or is that too early to tell? That is market.
What is MiCA?
MiCA is market.
MiCA.
Go on, Marcus.
Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, MiCA is market in crypto asset. It is a massive regulations in Europe. So a lot of the centralized exchanges, they have to strictly adhere to certain requirements. And a lot of the top, like even Monero got delisted. And that happened, I believe, by Kraken, which is one of the oldest cryptocurrency exchanges. And all of these changes are literally happening now because the MiCA or MiCA takes into effect, I believe it is from the 1st of January 2025. So you need to do a lot of KYC to your clients, a lot of AML, and quite a lot of other things.
So, I mean, what we're seeing is governments across the globe are starting to regulate crypto.
Yeah.
And that's going to be taking place moving forward for several reasons. As, once again, fiat loses value. We're going into a central bank digital currency. We see this as this was a mandate from the Bank for International Settlements, which is the
BIS, yeah.
So you're going to start seeing more regulations. The regulations, I think, are helpful for people like us that are in the space, because now it gives us guardrails and we know what we can do and what we can't do. Before it was a bit Wild West, and it's basically you move fast and you break things, and a lot of things got broken. But now we're seeing governments are starting to take this space more serious. There's a huge opportunity there, and digitization and tokenization, essentially one and the same, are becoming very real. So in our case, we have our in-house counsel that's always monitoring regulations at home and abroad. And we get feedback on a daily, sometimes hourly basis, depending on, the situation. And we just work within that framework. So as far as Oort is concerned, I think the main regulatory frameworks that we're looking at is the data frameworks, data regulations, right? Your GDPR and so on and so forth. And staying within regulations there, while at the same time making sure that we're providing value to our end users as well, right? So it's a very dynamic market. You got to keep your ear to the pulse 24/7, because what's going to work today as far as regulatory framework might change next week based on feedback from the market. So I'm just glad I'm not our in-house attorney, because there's a lot of stuff to keep up with. But nonetheless, we're very excited as far as Oort, especially the Oort Foundation. Right now I'm going around promoting as much as possible to let people know what we're doing, what we're building. AI and DePIN, real cool. DePIN being Decentralized Physical Infrastructure Network, and actually getting people who are using real-world devices. For instance, your cell phone, edge devices is what they're called, to store locally on your device and also participate from your device. You've been using DePIN forever, but most people have not an idea. And actually, if we could, I'm trying to figure out ways to actually lower the barrier of entry with the vocabulary. DePIN doesn't make too much sense to me anymore. It's probably just going to be, your phone and your laptop. Be much easier for people to understand, because you're already doing DePIN. Every time you take a picture on Instagram and post it, you're uploading data into the Instagram ecosystem. You just don't have the data sovereignty that Oort will be able to. And that's what we're solving right now. So it's a massive opportunity. The landscape is it's huge. So I think what we are building, and if we are able to get this first to market, it will be a game changer in the AI DePIN space. And that's what we're currently, making a sense of urgency to roll out at the moment.
Excellent. And
so, go ahead.
No, go on, Mike.
No. So as far as DePIN AI, I love that. They say rising tides float all boats. I'm also watching Bitcoin and the ecosystem extremely close, because Bitcoin goes up, the market goes up, right? Yeah. We were able to, I wouldn't say time, but we did our own research, and we did, TGE January 15th. You got to keep in mind that the ETF went live, 7 days before that, 8 days before that. So we did pretty well. Best of luck to other projects that are going to be doing TGE now, right? But essentially, you take a look. Bitcoin has been around for 15 years, and all we were able to do before this was send money back and forth. But now you actually have development on the Bitcoin network, and that's game changing. You've got the ordinals, the inscriptions, the runes. You've got the fractal Bitcoin. You've got the Cat 20. All of this that's taking place. We never had that before. And you know what was crazy? It was 2020, end of 2022. I think Taproot went live. 2023 was when we started seeing like the development of the ordinals, inscriptions, BRC20s, right? And I was telling friends, look, we're in a bull market, guys. And they thought I was crazy. But you slowly saw the price of Bitcoin increase. I think we were up to we went from 15K to like 30K closer to the end of the year. And then, of course, the ETF just rocket launched everything. Here's what's going on. Bitcoin now boasts the deepest liquidity in the space and also has the endorsement of Wall Street through the ETFs. And don't get me started on those ETFs. But altcoin season is going to be absolutely different. We never had this variable before, which is the development on Bitcoin. And that's the native chain with its own native tokens. So Bitcoin would go up, people would take profits, spread it across alt chains. I don't think that's going to be the case anymore. It's going to go further in the Bitcoin ecosystem.
Yeah.
So at this point, if you don't have a utility for your alt chain or your alternative token, these altcoins are going to suffer moving forward.
Definitely.
Our focus has been on utility. In a long-winded approach, I think it all makes sense.
Regarding the point that you mentioned regarding ETF, I mean, I'm definitely not a massive advocate of Bitcoin ETF or any spot ETF for that matter. But Robert F. Kennedy Jr., when he went live at Bitcoin Magazine event, and he actually said the same thing. He does not like Bitcoin Spot ETF, and you can see the crowd, they went completely silent because they were expecting him to praise Bitcoin Spot ETF. I really am not sure we should be doing that. Now, what you said is absolutely spot on, regarding Bitcoin Spot ETF. Now, regarding Oort Foundation, Mike, you're the chairman of the Oort Foundation. I had a very specific question, and I think our listeners would love to know this as well. What is the key differentiation, let's say, between a foundation and an association? And if I'm not mistaken, Oort Foundation is registered in Switzerland, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Yes. So our foundation is actually an association.
Okay.
Yeah, because of the regulations, the regulatory climate in Switzerland, and then also the benefits that it provides compared to a foundation. However, we've just kept the name Foundation, Oort Foundation, though we are an association. And Switzerland has and is a very favorable climate to Bitcoin, crypto, and blockchain projects. So that's why we're established there as an association.
Nice.
Yeah. And recently, I believe you guys had X Space via Twitter as well, isn't it? What are the updates that you had regarding that? Because I kind of missed that live session via Twitter or X.
Yeah, we had a town hall a couple days ago. Markose was the moderator. Thank you, Markose. And it's basically highlighting that, a lot of development's been taking place. I'm actually in Asia, so I can get a much stronger pulse on innovation that's taking place throughout Asian, specifically Southeast Asia, where crypto adoption has seen a strong uptick. And what I realized coming from New York is that, though we tend to think, and we're all operating out of bubbles, that New York is innovating. Sure, we are, but at a slower pace. It's more conservative. Asia is where the real innovation is being done. I was able to run into so many amazing projects, founders, developers, and got a stronger pulse on what all was taking place. I think it's very interesting as a human being. We find safety in our own bubbles, and it's always good to leave your bubble, join other bubbles, to learn insights and perspective. And in this case, that's what I've done the past 2 months. So, yeah, we were able to come back with a lot of valuable insights, partnerships, firming up partnerships, and just seeing what is taking place next. And you'd be surprised. What do you think was probably the top narrative these last few conferences?
I would have to say AI, or the emergence of AI. AI for everything.
That's one. So Oort's in a good place. That's true.
I'm definitely not hoping it to be meme coins.
No. Bitcoin season, I think, is done. I avoided that. I wouldn't put your money in meme coins. Right?
Yeah. I would like to have the narrative where people are talking about, separation of money and the state, and more narratives about, people having full control, 100% control over the money. And I can only think of Bitcoin in a position to do that.
That was the main narrative that I experienced. That was the side events. I mean, even in Korea Blockchain Week, there was like a huge side event called BTC Con.
Yep.
Interesting. Wow. Okay.
Everybody. So now, basically, these chains, whether they be layer 2 or, development on Bitcoin, are now starting to point back to Bitcoin.
Yep.
Because once again, it has the deepest liquidity, and now innovation is taking place. So if you're not looking at what's going on in Bitcoin, you're doing yourself a disservice. I think Bitcoin taking off, the community coming together to build Bitcoin and making it more efficient, right, for distribution and also utility, is going to have what I like to call a fall into the sugar bowl effect on the rest of the crypto space, right? And that's why your focus at this point is to build a utilitarian project or chain that actually adds value, not extract. That meme coin bullshit was extracting so much value out the space. I met some guy at one event, and sadly he was from Dubai, and I guess he thought I was into meme coins, but he was trying to sell me on his meme coin shop. So they build meme coins, and I think they're 8 in, and basically they're like, how can you lose when you're the house?
Does it make...
Yeah. Sounds like the Markose Nostra stuff, man. Like, what the heck?
Like he was a cheap prostitute, man, and tried to walk away from him as fast as possible, but he kept trying to hang on to me. I was like, gosh, come on, man, get away from me. Yeah, but yeah, that's what's going on.
Yep.
People want meme coins so they can get quick value extraction from normies.
Mike. So my apologies for interrupting, but just to connect with what you shared about meme coins. I know George also knows my viewpoints too, because I felt that this because we have many people, like, I don't know, for some reason got into the meme coins and stuff. I'm seeing VCs also getting into meme coins, but it's kind of crazy for me, to be honest. Again, how do you classify as a VC and stuff? We can have I know George can have a separate, like, kind of like a masterclass session, but man, like, honestly, guys, I thought like meme coin was a social engineering project. Like, this is it wasn't natural at all. This is like a top down approach. Like, this is not a natural movement, like, for example, like Bitcoin or Monero, like a natural movement. This was totally like created like out of thin air, and suddenly like you're seeing So.
Because I know the guy Jason Palmer, who actually was one of the founders of Dogecoin, and he just created out of fun, just pure fun, to see how the market reacts to it. But people have taken a completely U-turn. And one thing, Mike, which I'm agreeing to speaking to you, is that one thing which I often tell my clients is, whenever there's new technology that comes up, is it offering a 10x better user experience than what we're currently experiencing? I feel that Bitcoin, if you were to compare, let's say, with fiat currency, be it, let's say, liquidity points that you're talking about, or debasement of currency, is it offering a 10x better user experience or 10x better experience? The answer to that is yes. I might even say maybe it is 25 times better, and that is a recipe for success, in my opinion. So, definitely agree to all points regarding liquidity. Now, I do have a question regarding Oort Foundation. Are there plans of, let's say, AI with Oort Foundation merging with blockchain technology? Is that what is in the future for Oort Foundation or with the Oort project?
Yeah, that's actually what we're building right now. We're building it in phases, starting with our decentralized storage. If data is oil, that's where the oil is stored. Then we also have the data hub, which is our data collection and data labeling. So that's where the oil gets refined. We also incentivize our community members to participate in the data labeling, data collections. They are incentivized to do so across the world. I grew up in Jamaica. I left when I was 10. But when I go back home, most people don't have laptops, but they do have 1 to 2 phones, so they can participate in this economy. And essentially what we're building is a governance mechanism where human beings, the 99%, will be able to be more involved in the future of AI, right? And that'll all be on chain. So we're backing into the LLM. That's going to be a task within itself, but we're proving to the community in the world what we can do in each phase until we get there.
Now, regarding governance, on your website, and I have a very specific question as well. On the website of Oort Foundation, it says, use your Oort token to vote or delegate your vote to ensure that integrity and advancement of the Oort ecosystem. Now, based on my experience in the so-called blockchain space, what I've noticed is that when there's governance tokens, most of them are actually issued to, let's say, the founding team members or to investors who initially invest in that particular project. Based on my experience, I wanted to ask this question: does that actually lead to centralization of the project?
So that could be a potential, right, with governance. However, the point of the governance is really to get a feel for the community so the community can also participate and be engaged in the future of the project. So it's all about creating metrics that are going to be fair, right? And we're currently in the discussion of rolling out our governance page for governance and proposals, right? Which launches, actually, good question, this month. Oh. And that's the conversation that we're having right now, right? Mm-hmm. Is making sure that our community's voice is heard and not overpowered by the investors or large token holders, right? And how do we go about that? I just had a call last night about this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And from the foundation side, I'm protecting, of course, the community members, while at the same time making sure that investors are also being heard as well. But this is the thing. There is no success without community.
Yep. It's all about the community, isn't it?
It's all about the community. Your project depends on the community. And if we don't have a community, then we lose the project. So if you could get the community now to actually share its thoughts in real time and vote on proposals in a fair way, and also bring proposals to table and bring the team to task, then that's a huge opportunity. I think that's a win in our book, right? So now it's just creating a fear, FAIR. I know I have this accent sometimes, but fear opportunity for all involved in the Oort ecosystem.
And that is what makes it distributed or decentralized, how we like to call it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, regarding blockchain technology, and I have a very specific question, and this is both in a general perspective as well as Oort Foundation. We often talk about the blockchain trilemma problem, that is, scalability, and can Oort Foundation or Oort be able to scale at a really wide audience without compromising, let's say, on decentralization or distributed nature or security? What are your thoughts about, the whole blockchain trilemma problem, and how does Oort Foundation try to solve the blockchain trilemma problem? A lot of the people in the blockchain space, they say that, we have solved the blockchain trilemma problem, but if you actually read through some finer details, there is some degree, let's say, of compromise that they do.
Hello?
I can hear you perfect, yeah?
Okay, you're going out.
I can hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's me. I've got the hotel.
Oh, okay.
It's
Do you want me to repeat it?
It might be also a StreamYard. It might be a StreamYard thing too, so that's also.
But also, gents, I also have another call right now too.
Okay.
No, sure. Yeah, no, yeah.
They just reached out to me, so maybe it's because I was answering that text.
Okay. Do you want me to ask the question again, or do you want to continue it at a later time? I'm cool with either.
Yeah, I would love to continue the conversation. I think this is fantastic, right? We can.
Yeah.
We're diving into the meat and bones of everything. So
yeah. So I'll just repeat the question. What I wanted to ask is regarding blockchain trilemma problem. So in the so-called blockchain space, there is often this notion about scalability, security, and decentralization, and there is often compromise in either one of these. So how is Oort Foundation able to manage all the three things? That is, offers high throughput or scalability, at the same time ensuring that high security is in place and not compromising on decentralization or distributed, how I like to call it personally.
That's a very good question. So I work very close with our CTO, Dr. Yang, and also promoting Oort to developers, bringing them on board. Actually, I just brought on our DevRel, which is Jimmy Jimmy Nagels. Jeez, let's forget Jimmy's name. So we have these discussions, and of course, the trilemma always leads to trade-offs. So it's an ongoing discussion, and I think it will always take the brightest minds as we continue to build out our ecosystem. Currently, we're focused on decentralization and scalability. The security is already there, but now we are going to be onboarding more projects into our ecosystem. So that is really going to be telling moving forward. It's kind of like you didn't know you needed a layer 2 until you had all the activity on chain.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of these companies make these bold statements, but then when they get stress tested, you find out it's not true. So rather than make up any fallacy, I'll just be very honest. These are things that we work through currently.
Yeah, and I did have an interview with Dr. Max Lee. He also talked about, why it is so imperative that we are fully decentralized and distributed and not just partially distributed or decentralized like some projects are. So, do you have any questions, Markose, or to Mike Robinson?
No, just no, I don't have any specific questions. I think just kind of go back to the data hub. Just want to kind of like inform the audience, and also something I'm also learning too. Like what you mentioned earlier, that a lot of the data from AI, there's a lot of human involvement. So because in the current AI space, like a lot of the data labeling is all done in especially certain places in the global south. But it has a sort of like a black box experience. You don't really know how they verify or validate the data and stuff. But and most of people get paid doing these data labeling stuff. It's like less than $2 an hour. They work like 8 to 10 hours a day. So
can I interject very quickly? I just want to thank you all for hosting me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I have to hop to another call.
Yeah.
So
sure.
I would love to keep the conversation going. Blockchain DXP.
Great having you. Great having you, Mike.
I love things Oort. So take care. Enjoy Dubai. Good morning to you all. And hello, everyone. Continue watching Oort. I think Q4 is going to be a bang-up quarter.
Great. Thanks so much for joining us, Mike. Have a nice one, yeah. Enjoy the weather in Thailand as well.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Yeah. No, but anyways,
yeah, I think for our listeners, Mike had to go because he had an urgent call, so hopefully we might be able to catch up with him next time. But we did ask pretty much all the questions, isn't it, Markose?
No, we covered pretty much the whole, I guess, the holistic picture about what Oort Foundation's working on. So
yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely would love to have him again. But I guess for me, I want to talk about the data hub because that is human centric. That brings humanity into the mix of things. So and just to because I guess what I'm really kind of excited about that area is that currently you have professional labeling companies, but they use a lot of the people from the global south. Think of Nigeria, think of India, Kenya. And there was actually kind of like a report about some of the mental health issues of the labelers in Kenya. They get paid $2 an hour. They work like long hours. And then, like they're working on like uncensored data and, really hard information. So, if you're on that 8 hours a day or something like definitely for sure it's going to affect your mental health, but they don't have any ownership. So this is where like we're using blockchain technology to empower the individual to participate in this new economy and also not only just earn, but be rewarded, for participating, but you also get ownership as well. So this is where like, for example, like the team from Oort is the only American and most importantly, the only Web3 company to be listed on the Shenzhen Data Exchange. So, we are early, but this is, this is just showcases that, hey, you know what, like, there's some big things that's going to happen, not only just in Q4 this year, but next year too. So, so this is where like, just to kind of like connect with, the blockchain trilemma, right? We're talking about scalability, security, and also decentralization. I think we definitely need decentralization, especially getting more people, more community involved, so this is where like we can play a really meaningful impact, so this is not just something to, just to post something on your socials and stuff. This is where like, real people, real impact is taking place. So I think that's also one of the metrics that we really want to be involved in, and that's why I brought I want Michael to kind of like share on that. So but yeah, anyways, that's my little spiel about Data Hub, and yeah.
Now, Markose,
I know we missed it.
You're part of the Oort Foundation working with AI, and I do have a very cheeky question regarding AI. And I'm going to put you on the spot, and I'm going to ask you this question, all right?
All right, let's do this. All right, let's do this.
I'm going to read it out word for word. Can artificial intelligence or AI, combined with blockchain technology, ever truly center music with the same creativity and emotions as humans?
Well, maybe, possibly, possibly. As long as if the algorithm is good and also the data sets is done accurately, done right. But of course, it does require good human intervention, I guess. So possibilities, yes. I know like earlier we have I remember you showed me a music product, a musical AI product. I thought that was kind of funny. It did have an emotional connection, because like what I mean is like when I shared it to my partner, she was like, "This is like funny, so cringy, it's kind of crazy," but it's still emotional. I mean, it does hit some emotional bells, which makes a lot of sense when it comes to music. But then there's also like certain genres. Man, it made a lot. It made a lot of sense. I'm like, it's possible. It's possible.
You know, you're absolutely spot on, Marcus, but had someone asked me this question before seeing this app, I would have completely dismissed it because I play drums and I've actually learned drums and I've been playing for well almost 20 years. And I thought, and especially the genre of music that I play, it is extreme metal. It's very hard to put the emotions into the music that you play. So I thought this app called Suno.com absolutely cannot replicate it, but I actually typed it and I asked it to put up, a thrash death metal song, and to be honest, I was completely blown away. Now, I'm pretty much sure it takes information from YouTube and that's where it gets the algorithm, but to replicate the emotions, I was completely baffled and even shocked, to be precise, because I did actually send it to my bandmates and everyone was like, man, this is scary good. So, AI is definitely taking over certain emotions as well. And like you mentioned, Marcus, combine that with blockchain technology, it's going to be really interesting to see how this entire narrative plays out.
Yeah. And also just to remind the audience too, because like, Mike did mention that, that AI does have a lot of human intervention, human involvement. So again, this is where like you cannot remove the human out of this equation, Now, at the moment, I guess certain AI projects, it's controlled by a certain group of people. This is where the problem lies. Whether it comes to how do you say, tokenizing ancient wisdom, or like some of these LLM products and all that stuff. So again, it's sort of like a very small group of people who are controlling the narrative, who are trading these certain data sets. But this is where I think that we have a decent window of opportunity where regular Joes and Janes all around the world, like you and me, we could play an important role. We could create our own products. We could put our own ideas and identities and values into these different AI products, and some of them will, add value to the marketplace. Could add value to, say, art and music and stuff. So this is where we keep in mind that, you cannot get humans out of it. I mean, you could. I think in many ways you can restrict it, but with using blockchain technologies and stuff and the right principles, I think it's possible. So
let me ask you another question, Marcus, and this is a question I actually heard it at Lex Friedman podcast. If, let's say, you have to get up at 6 o'clock and you have to attend an interview at 7 a.m., who are you most likely to trust to set the alarm? Would it be your partner, or would it be your mom and dad, or would it be your mobile phone?
Oh man. I guess, okay, if I wasn't like in high school or something like that, I have incredible faith in my mom to wake me up, because
they would take the shit out of us.
My phone would be ringing. Oh yeah, no, they have the initiative. So yeah, I have faith. That's what I have faith in humanity. So, well, currently at the moment, I got my phone or whatever, but even still, then I think sometimes like my cats would wake me up. So they will stand just stare at you. Like what the heck? So it's possible.
Yeah. And I think we've covered pretty much everything, Marcus, isn't it? Even from the cryptocurrency and blockchain world. I think we've touched base on all the things that with Mike Robinson. So it's going to be really interesting to see what the CPI numbers are. And it'll be released at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which I believe would be somewhere between 5 or 6 p.m. And now something which even Mike touched base upon is what narrative the mainstream media puts across. And I often say this, Marcus, what I tend to do is I tend to look at the prices 3 to 4 hours before the CPI numbers are out, when the CPI numbers are out, and 3 to 4 hours after the CPI numbers are out. And based on my experience, mainstream media often put out a completely different narrative to what the actual fact is. And that is what drives the price of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So to our listeners, I wouldn't be surprised if the prices do actually pump up. Again, not financial advice. And all our price predictions are 100% right 50% of the time. But this particular weekend, I do feel, that we might see a lot of price volatility, hopefully in a positive direction.
Agreed. Yeah.
I think we've covered pretty much everything, isn't it, Marcus?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, the only thing left is, hey, what's happening? What updates we have with blockchain DXB, sir?
Yeah, I do have a couple of episodes coming out, which is to do with the race-based podcast. I mean, I have 3 episodes coming up because there's a massive event coming up on the 26th of October. So if any of the listeners are into running, want to participate in obstacle course race, there is Arabian Warriors coming up, and they have 3 distances, 5 kilometers, 4 distances, 5 kilometer, 10 kilometer, 20 kilometer, and 50 kilometers, along with obstacles as well. So it's not just running. You have to climb on a rope, have a sandbag which is roughly around 40 to 60 pounds. You have to do a couple of monkey bars, take a deep dive into ice cold water, and quite a lot of other things. So if any of you guys want to go ahead and attend the event, you can use the promo code SIGNUP10 and get some kind of discount for that particular event. But other than that, everything is...
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. Man, October is quite interesting, quite a busy time. From Society X, I would say I think one of our folks is organizing an event on Friday with ETH Dubai. So I think they're going to have some panel discussions. So still waiting on the final update, but that's what I know. As far as Oort is concerned, I'll be covering GITEX and the Future Blockchain Summit. So next week will be bonkers, totally crazy. So I'm excited about it, and also some of our friends from Dubai blockchain events organized by Block Delta. They'll have their cigar and whiskey night. So that sounds a whole lot of fun. So definitely you'll see some who's who in the blockchain and the crypto space. So excited to be joining that event. And and also I'm excited to preach the word of Oort to people here in the ecosystem. Excited about this data hub launch that will be happening in 2 weeks or maybe in 3 weeks time. So that'll be really cool to get various communities to partake and also get rewarded for doing all this data labeling stuff. So which I believe are the only Web3 solution when it comes to data labeling. So this is actually quite exciting. And mostly for me, just chilling, just trying to make some new friends, and just trying to work on some new business ideas when it comes to podcast and media. So that's a whole nother story. But hey, just wanted to point that out there, just in case people are curious. Hey, you know what? If you're into podcasts and stuff, hey, you can talk to me and also talk to George too. And especially George does hold classes on podcasting. So, don't just sit on the sidelines, take action, reach out, and make it happen. So that's about it, folks.